Alright, today we're looking at graphing an ellipse. First you need to know what an ellipse is. So if we draw an ellipse, our ellipse can either be a horizontal ellipse or we can have a vertical ellipse, which looks like this. The longer side of it, so in this one, this is the longer side. This would be the major axis. The shorter one is the minor axis. So in the vertical one, then the tall one would be your major, and the short one would be your minor. You have at the ends of the major axis, so at the ends of your major axis, those are vertices. That's a vertex. Both of those are a vertex. At the end of the minor axis, you have co-vertices. And then here in between, or as you near the vertex, you have these 2 points, which are called, one of them is called a focus. When you look at the plural, it's a foci. So those are 2 points, and we're going to determine more about those here in just a minute. So looking at the standard form equation of this ellipse, and then we'll get into graphing one so you can see really what all these parts do. So standard form, we have 2 different standard forms. We have x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. Or we also have y minus k squared over a squared plus x minus h squared over b squared equals 1. Okay, the differences between those, if you notice on this first one the x term leads, on the second one the y terms lead. So on this first one, when x leads, that's going to be a horizontal ellipse. Okay, so that's going to be like this picture here. When the y leads, it's a vertical ellipse. And that's like this picture up here. Your center is always at HK. So the thing you have to pay attention to is over here, when the y leads, you have to make sure you do the h value, then the k value for your center. Your foci are located on the major axis, always on the major axis, which is the longer one. Your foci, that distance, you're going to find it using c squared equals a squared minus b squared. So c is the distance to the focus. So we're going to say c equals distance from center to focus. So c is the distance from the center to the focus. And we're going to find c by doing c squared equals a squared minus b squared. Remember, a squared is this first number. It's always going to be your bigger number, so you're going to do the bigger bottom minus the smaller bottom, and then you'll take the square root of that in order to get c on its own. We'll talk more on the next screen what a squared and b squared do, but those tell you your distances. So under x, the square root of that, so in this situation here, a, the square root of a squared, which would be just a, is going to tell you how far left and right to go because it's under x. The square root of this number is going to tell you how far up and down to go because it's under y. So here, because it's under y, this will tell you your vertical distance first and then your horizontal distance. If we look at an example, so this makes a little bit more sense, if I give you y plus 1 squared over 36 plus x minus 2 squared over 16 equals 1. The first thing you want to do is plot your center. Okay, so we're going to draw in a graph. We'll plot our center. Our center here on this one is going to be at 2, negative 1. So again, you change the signs, but you're going to do the x, so a positive 2, and then a negative 1 for my y value. So we'll go positive 2, negative 1, and that's going to be my center. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the square root under each number. So take square root of denominator. Okay, so under x tells you left and right. Under y tells you up and down. So if we look at the square root of 36 is 6. That's under y, so this is going to tell me to go 6 up and down. So from my center, we're going to go up 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and put a dot. From the center, we're going to go down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and put another dot. Then we go to my x's. We go to the next denominator. So now if we look under 16, the square root of 16 is 4. So that's going to tell me to go 4 to the left and right from my center. This is always from the center. Okay, so from my center, we'll go 4 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and put a dot. We'll go 4 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and put another dot. And these give me the vertices and co-vertices of my ellipse. Because y came first, these points on top and bottom are my vertices. Because y came first, and that's the bigger number. Wherever it's longer, those are your vertices. And the shorter side, those are your co-vertices. And then we can connect this and actually make our ellipse. Of course, I missed as usual. And make our ellipse. The last thing we want to do is plot our foci. So let's get one more color here for fun. So the next thing we're going to do is plot our foci. And we're going to remind ourselves right here, foci are located when c squared equals a squared minus b squared. Remember, a squared is always bigger. So we're going to come down here and we're going to say c squared equals a squared minus b squared. My a squared is 36. You're just going to use those denominators. Minus 16 is my other denominator. So a squared is here. B squared is here. So c squared will equal 20. So c is equal to the square root of 20. That's always the square root of 20 from my center on the major axis. So this is from center on major axis. That's the longer one. So that means from my center, I'm going to go up and down, because my vertices go up and down, the square root of 20 units. When we graph it, then you can get the decimal equivalent. That's a little bit more than 4, so kind of about 4.5. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and a little bit. And I always mark them with a star. And I'll go down 4 and a little bit and mark it with a star. When you tell me the coordinates of those points, we're going to write it in true form. So we know our center is at 2, -1. When we write our foci, because my foci are going up and down, they went up and down, that's changing the y value. So we're going to add it to the y value. So the x value of my foci is both at 2, because it's over 2, and then we go up for my foci and down for my foci. So from -1, we added the square root of 20, so we went from -1, we went up square root of 20, we also went down square root of 20. So we're going to say that foci is located at -1 plus or minus the square root of 20. We're going to spend a little bit more time in class looking at how to write that foci coordinate point, but you'll use the decimal in order to graph it, and then you're going to use that exact value in order to plot those points. So just to walk you through one more time how to graph. You first plot your center, do your x, then your y. So plot that center point. You're going to take the square root of the denominators. The denominator under y tells you up and down. The denominator under x tells you left and right. So depending on what you're doing, if your x comes first, then you plot your left and right first. If y comes first, you plot your up and down first. The one that comes first are your foci, are your vertices. On the longer end, the ones that come second are your co-vertices.